Welcome to the Extraordinary Life Podcast, the perfect destination designed to help you have the life and business you want. I'm your host and growth strategist, Sade Dennis, and I want you to succeed. So sit back, break out your pens and your pads, and get ready to be transformed on Extraordinary Life. Not just a podcast, but an experience. Well, everyone, we have an exciting podcast today. There's so much going on social media and certainly within our hectic and chaotic political climate. And those of us who are in business, and you know what, even if you're not in business, whether you're a student who is trying to get into school, or someone who is trying to be recruited, or someone who's trying to get a new job, your personal brand is at stake always, whether it's what you do out in the street or even what you post on social media. And recently, there has been a situation with a well-known comedian, Kathy Griffin. And of course, as you may be familiar, she is under fire for some very controversial shots she did at a recent photo shoot. And today we have with us a very, very special guest. He is Dr. Will Moreland. He's a leader. He is an entrepreneur. In fact, I learned about Dr. Will first in Forbes magazine. And from there, I've just been so intrigued with all the lessons and things that he's doing and just his business and how he's helping entrepreneurs and individuals all over the world. So this morning, I would like to introduce to you guys Dr. Will. Dr. Will, thank you so much for coming on, and just tell us a little bit about who you are, and then let's just kind of get into the meat of this thing.
Well, first off, Sade, thank you so much for having me and allowing me to share with your community. And I want to first say thank you for all the work that you are doing. You're doing some amazing work. I see many of your clients and some of the stuff that you're producing out in the world. So I commend you as well for everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
So I tell people the further I get away from my childhood, or the older I get, I should say, the story gets a little bit interesting. But at the core of it, I'm just a simple kid from Compton, California, that wakes up every single morning with the opportunity to work with some amazing clients, to work with amazing organizations, and helping them get clarity on what their overall mission is and how they can produce at a higher level in life. So I'm what they would call a serial entrepreneur. I have a consulting company, a leadership consulting company. I have a publishing company, a real estate company. So I just love two things, leadership and business. And I've been very fortunate and blessed to merge those two things together. And I wake up every morning with the pleasure of endeavoring in those communities. So that's kind of the skinny on me.
Wow. On June the 2nd, and for those of you who are listening, I'm part of a phenomenal group online, and it's called Team Genius Entrepreneurs, and it's headed by Dr. Will. And on June 2nd, Dr. Will, you had a very provocative and very thought-provoking post, and you had here, TGE, protect your brand. Think some more before you comment, support, endorse, or get emotional online. And you have here, comedian Kathy Griffin is under fire for a picture she took of the president. And you mentioned what it cost her. You had here, she was fired from CNN. She lost sponsorship with a company, and 5 of her shows have been canceled, and most likely some more. So what prompted you to share this with us?
Well, thank you for mentioning the community. And inside the community, one of the things that I try to do is share with entrepreneurs and business owners things that I see out on the internet or things that I read about that I think that could impact their business. A lot of times we think because we're not a Kathy Griffin, or because we're not a McDonald's, or we're not a Starbucks, or we're not a Microsoft, we don't have to, as individuals and small business owners, we sometimes don't feel like we have to protect our brand. And a lot of times I see it on social media, because as a small business owner and an entrepreneur, many of us think that those are two different worlds, our personal life and our business life. So we may think that we could share something on what we dub our personal Facebook page or our personal Twitter, and we don't think that we would get the backlash. And so whenever I see something like that, I want to make sure and remind entrepreneurs and small business owners, you can be impacted just as well as a Kathy Griffin or someone else. Recently I just read an article where 10 incoming freshmen were dismissed from Harvard because something they posted on social media. So here are 10 incoming freshmen. They've probably been trying to get to Harvard, their whole high school career or maybe even their life. And because they posted something on social media that reflected back on their brand, their personal brand, Harvard said, well, you will taint our brand. And one of the things that the chancellor said, he says, we have a brand at Harvard that we want to protect. So imagine, this 17, 16-year-old kid now having to tell their parents that, hey, I know we had the party. I know we told grandma that I was going to Harvard, but nope, I'm not. And the reason why is because I didn't protect my brand. So in short, that's why I shared it with the group, because I wanted us to understand that it could happen at any level, not just superstar Fortune 500 companies deal with this, but everybody, especially in the social media environment that we're in, everybody needs to protect their brand.
Wow, that's phenomenal. And here's the thing about it that's really interesting. I mean, you talked about everyone having a personal brand. What it sounds like, because we're such in an interconnected world and society, is there a time where we say, well, I'm speaking for myself, but really you're speaking for a lot of people in some kind of way, whether it be your school's PTA, some type of opportunity that you want. So really think about it. Is there ever a time where we're just solely speaking for ourselves because we're going to affect somebody else?
I want to say this loud and I want to say this clear. You are never off duty. When I was in the military, they used to always tell us, you're always a soldier, whether you're in uniform or out of uniform, you're always a soldier. So when you go down to the bowling alley, you're a soldier. When you go down to that club, you're a soldier. When you're in the airport, you're a soldier. Protect the Army. You are a soldier. And so everybody, with the proliferation of all these camera phones, you never know. Look, we've all done this, right? We've been in the airport and we saw something that caught our eye and we pull out our phone and we start recording. Unbeknownst to the people, you may see somebody who we would feel has on something crazy, or you may see somebody getting into an argument with the cash register and we whip out our phone or we take a picture and we didn't want to go post that on. Look at this, y'all. This is crazy. This lady's arguing at this guy, but the camera is always on you. And so just because you're not getting paid to be a reality TV star, I need you to understand you are a reality TV star.
Wow. That's crazy.
It's scary. It's crazy. But Sade, it's the truth. Everybody is watching you. So when you go to make your return at Macy's and they say something that you don't like and you're going off, I want you to know somebody has their camera out and they're watching you. Or even if it's not them, it's the store that's recording the incident that will come back and say, no, she was acting irate. Look at her. And then just as you said earlier, Sade, you're connected to your kids, to your spouse, to your church, to whatever organization, to your business. You have some type of connection to someone that could be embarrassed by your actions. So we can never forget that.
And it's interesting because when I think about that, and for instance, let's say in a case of employment and, someone wants to, sound off or what have you. And I think about, what does this paycheck represent for you? This paycheck represents security for your family, perhaps vacation or tuition. And so is what you want to say or sound off or any of those kinds of things or go off, is this worth losing out on those things? Is this worth you losing the security and, that you have for your family? Is this worth little Jimmy's tuition and what you want him to be, an engineer or whatever it is you want him to be, for going off? And so I think about that. Yes, while it is our right to of course, freedom of speech, which is, of course, is important. But is this really worth it? And to think about it in terms of the long game, this is kind of how I try to govern myself and what I try to share with other people who feel like, well, I'm just being transparent. This is me. I'm real. I'm authentic. And they look at, brand crafting or brand strategy as being phony, as being plastic. And my whole thing is, who are you really? Let's craft a strategy to make sure that we are presenting that, because Lord knows I don't want to be judged on my worst day. I don't want to be judged on me going off at Macy's or Nordstrom and I can't return my, whatever it is because I'm upset. Well, yeah, that's me, but that's really not me. And so I have to kind of think about what I'm doing, what I'm posting, and it's an act of commission. Like I'm literally, uh, you know, acting in or fulfilling actions that I feel represent me, as opposed to just being all natural. This is me. I'm transparent. Here I am. Well, what's that costing me to do that?
You're exactly right. There's a big buzzword that's out there right now, and it's being authentic, right? Who is your authentic self? And you mentioned about freedom of speech. Yes, there is freedom of speech, but as Kathy Griffin learned, there's also consequences to that freedom of speech as well. And so you do want to think about the long game, and you do want to think about how do you want to be perceived. And I'm not saying by no means that we walk around on eggshells and we're nervous all the time and we're not authentic, but I do want you to think, and that's what I put in the group. That's why I led off with think, and think some more. So let me give you an example. You're going into Macy's, you're getting ready to make a return. Prepare yourself to maybe hear something you're not wanting to hear. So how are you going to respond in that situation? How are you going to respond? So think about that, because usually that's what happens, right? First line of defense is for them to say, maybe you can't return that. So before you go off the handle, ask yourself, how am I going to handle that situation? How can I think through this situation when we're driving and someone cuts us off or whatever? It could be something as simple as driving down the street and you want to blast your music, right? Somebody's watching.
Okay.
Somebody's watching. And so you may think that you're, like we say, I'm in my own little world. I'm in my private car. I'm in my private time. But someone's always watching. And to what you said, you do want to play the long game. You do want to think about what is the repercussions of my actions. And once again, I want to be clear. It's not just for what we would perceive the big brands. Everybody needs to be aware of this. You mentioned earlier about going to your job. I've seen countless people. One in particular, I saw a young lady who was a teacher, and she came back, and what she perceived was her private Facebook page. She came back and made some comments on a parent that she had to deal with on a particular day. That parent saw the comment, got offended, went to the school board. That teacher was fired.
Wow.
So once again, you're always under the microscope.
So in other words, when I think about this, and many of my lady listeners, or maybe some of the guys too, may relate to this, but we have a thing where we talk about letting it all hang out. And sometimes they're like, no, let's not let it all hang out. Let's snatch some stuff in. Okay. And I think about that because is that what you want to do? Let it all hang out? But I want to flip the script a little bit. Now, when you look at other brands who are tightly scripted, who have misfires. I mean, we think about the Pepsi ad with Kendall Jenner in it when they had kind of like the mock, demonstrations and rallies and what have you. And it was a total misfire. I mean, it's probably a dozen others that we can think about, not only over time, but even recently when it comes to, these big companies and just really missing the mark. What can you share with whether it be small business owners or even the big companies who misfire and perhaps they just miss it? What is it that they need to do? They're not hearing, they're not seeing. How can people be more on the mark with their campaigns? I see all the time on social media, people, think they're going to do it up. hire photographers and what have you, and somehow they misfire, whether it be offending people or whether, the campaign not being successful. What can you share with those business owners?
So one of the things that entrepreneurs and business owners have to realize is that your audience, and when I say your audience, the people that have access to you, is worldwide. That's why it's called the World Wide Web. A lot of times when we do things, we think that we're just talking to our audience. So for Kathy Griffin, she probably thought that she was just talking to her audience, people who love her comedy, people who understand her level of comedy. She has always been that type of on the edge type of comic. So she thought she was just talking to them. But we think when we put something on social media, we forget it's more than just your mama, your cousin, and your friend seeing it. The world has access to it. Even if you think that, I have a private page. It's not open to the public. But what if you posted something, Sade, and then I reposted it on my page? So that then now brought it outside of your community. So most people don't think about that. Then a lot of people, once again, only think with this keyhole mentality. So it's funny to me, but it's funny to everybody. Right? It makes sense to me, but does it make sense to everybody? And that's why I say stop and think. Not only, as an African-American man, I can't think about, is this funny to the African-American community, but I don't care that it may offend the Native American community, or, it's funny to Native Americans, but it may offend my Caucasian brothers or sisters. We have to start thinking from a global perspective. One of the other things I would say is not only thinking about a global perspective, but then you want to think about who you're associating with and who you're partnering with, always remembering your brand. We say birds of a feather flock together. So you even have to ask yourself, do I share the same ideology as this person? I'll give you a recent example, and it impacted his brand. You remember when Steve Harvey went to go meet with the incoming president?
Yes.
It cost him viewers.
Yes.
Why? Because the narrative was, if you're meeting with this person, you agree with this person. Even if you did not agree with this person, just by you being in the same vicinity, people are going to think that you agree with this person. On a smaller scale, we have to remember we don't have that cachet, meaning for most of us, we can't absorb that type of backlash. Pepsi, they can recover because they have, a bigger bank account than us. Steve Harvey was able to sustain it because his bank account is a little bit bigger. But think about you. When I say you, I just mean your listening audience. I'll give you a personal example. I have a radio show that comes on weekly, and it's doing very well. We had some businesses that contacted us that wanted to run some ads and some sponsorships, and I had to decline because what they were selling didn't line up with my brand. So even though the money was good, you know what they say in our community, all money ain't good money, right? Because even though I may not have had so much of a problem with the brand, I knew it would cause confusion with my overall audience.
Wow.
So I didn't have time to come back and explain every week that this ad ran, why I thought it was okay for the ad to run. So I made the executive decision to say, you know what, we're going to pass on that advertising dollars. And it was a hefty amount, but my brand is more valuable than that. And so those are the types of things that you got to think about. Is your brand in line with who you're partnering up? So think global. Always know that there's more eyes on you than you really think are on you. And then be very cautious of who when you reached out to us to do this podcast, that's one of the things I had to think. And so we look at, okay, who is Sade? What is she doing? Let me go look at her Facebook post. Let me go see what she's posting. Is it in line? Because the very fact that I'm on your podcast, that's me endorsing whatever work that you're doing.
Right. Absolutely.
Whether it's directly or indirectly, when people see that Dr. Will was on the Sade Dennis podcast, he must be in line with what she's talking about. So if I popped on your Facebook and I see you're talking about, I don't know who shot John, and it doesn't align with it doesn't align with my brand, I have to then decline that interview.
Well, look, I need to put you on hold and delete some stuff real quick. Then let me.
But see, listen. I saw that you were working with UMUC and you did an event with them. I used to be on their board, so I said, okay, if she's aligned with UMUC, then she's good people. I can do her show.
Oh, cool. Don't keep on scrolling. You keep it right there. Don't scroll any further. Okay? Keep it right there. Don't do nothing else,
Right.
Dr. Will. But that is so true because, I think about there are times when I may be working with a partner and then they have a partner and I'm like, you know what, I'm going to slow down on this new thing here because I'm just uncomfortable with what that person does. And what's interesting, especially in the kind of the self-help or even in the faith community, I've seen some things and I'm sure you have too. And there's some times I'm like, you know what? I just don't feel right about that. I'm good. Like I don't do a lot of clicks and sometimes it gets lonely, but I guess I'm going to use the word vindicated real quick. Because sometimes I see the people, they end up in jail. I'm like, wait a minute. I just saw you in church last week, but it's amazing because there's so many kind of get rich things out here. And I don't know what you're telling your people. You're telling your people that they can get rich in 5 days. And so I don't do a lot of that. I don't do that stuff. I'm all about the content, having integrity. And no, I may not make $1 million in 5 days. But I know that I can sleep at night. I can, walk out of my home with my children and I have to worry about who did I scam last week? Whose money have I collected with no intention of fulfilling a service? And I'm really mindful of that. And I see a lot of that just kind of in this scale down, if you will, like you mentioned, not Steve Harvey or Donald Trump, but just kind of in the universe that I'm in, and I see a lot of that.
So let me give you another quick example. I know we're running out of time, but let me give you another quick example. So several years ago, you may remember this, 10, 15 years ago, there was a show called The Apprentice, and the show was ran by Donald Trump. And so I really loved that show, watched it every single week. And so on social media, The Apprentice, Donald Trump had a Facebook page. And so he had a Facebook page. And because I liked his work on The Apprentice, I had liked his Facebook page. Now, this was 10, 15 years ago, right, when The Apprentice came out. Right. So when President Trump decided to run, what somebody did on social media was they created this social media generator where you could go and you could click on this thing to see how many of your friends had liked Donald Trump's page. Now, they were making it seem like we were liking the Trump that was running for president. Right. So I started getting I started getting inboxes like, Dr. Will, I can't believe that you support Donald Trump. I'm unfriending you right now. They tagged me in other posts. They started saying, Dr. Will supports ... I didn't know what they were talking about, right? Wow. And so I went in and I asked one person, I said, what are you talking about, right? And she had wrote this long dissertation about, how I disappointed her and all this. I'm like, what are you talking about? And she showed me this generator. And so things like that, you may have to go back. And so I had to go and unlike it because I didn't want to be associated with what the brand stood for today.
Wow.
And so you got to think about those types of things, especially on social media. And so it was just interesting to me because and that's the thing about this, no one is going to give you the opportunity to explain, right? Kathy Griffin, she had to come back in hindsight and kind of explain it. But you know what we always say, the damage was done.
Yeah.
Like literally, she got fired from CNN. She had been doing the New Year's show for 10 years, since 2007. She got fired. She lost multiple. On June the 1st, it was only one company. Now, when I followed up on it, it was multiple companies that she lost sponsorship with. On June 1st, it was 5 shows. It's up to 11 shows that she got. And so if you just think each show is worth, just at the minimum $50,000, that's $1 million for her.
Wow. And, think about it. First of all, think about just, outside of shopping sprees. Think about what that money, I don't know if she was like a sick mother or something I may have heard, but just what she would be able to do with those resources. And of course, having a brand. I mean, you think about a Trump, people have said, and I even feel bad by saying people have said, because I know he says that, but it has been said that, he can be a bully, perhaps. And so, and you put yourself in that line of fire. And then I also think about the missed opportunity to have platform and to be able to continue to have that voice and to continue to be an advocate, because outside of the money, you also lose the opportunity to have that big pulpit and to then share your message. And there was so many other ways that she could have communicated that same message. But there's something very powerful. First of all, I think it was totally inappropriate. That's just my opinion. I don't care who it is. That was totally inappropriate. It's very hurtful. There's so much to that. And, it was just bad. It was hurtful, and it was totally inappropriate. And Donald Trump, his family, has every right to be upset, offended, despite all the stuff he's done. I mean, we could have a whole years of shows about that, but it was just totally in poor taste. It was disgusting. But again, her right to do that, and people's right to fire her. We all have rights, right? But she missed the opportunity to have that every year, that New Year's Eve show. What a huge platform to be able to get your message out. And now that's been snuffed out.
Yeah. I know, Sade, you probably have some listeners that are listening that are saying, come on, Dr. Will, come on, Sade, come on. We have feelings, we have emotions. So let me help those people out. And this is what I personally do. So I have a group of friends. Now, don't do this with someone you just met yesterday.
Okay.
But I have a group of friends that we've been friends for, 10 plus years. We know the relationship is not going anywhere. And we have a super private page where we can express ourselves, right? We can say, man, did you see that was on the news today? Did you see that? Or did you, stuff? All of us share the videos, the ratchet videos, the crazy videos, all of that stuff, right? But we do it in a protective zone. So if you just have to do it, that's what I would suggest. You get you 2 or 3 friends, not somebody you met yesterday, but somebody that you can trust, where you guys can talk about those things in an open forum. If you just think that you just gotta post it, you just gotta, just do it in a closed form where your brand is going to be protected. Because like I say, there is no such thing once you put it on what you consider your private page. No, it's public, and you want to, like you said earlier, Sade, you want to think about the long game, and you do want to think about how this is going to not just impact you, but everybody that's impacted by you. And like you say, one of the things that Kathy Griffin is talking about right now is that her livelihood is being impacted. A lot of times we look at these stars and we think, oh, they'll be okay. I don't care who you are. I don't care how rich you are. You have a quality of life. And if you lose money that you were expecting to come in, it will impact your quality of life. No matter, there's very few people that's not going to be impacted by their income being impacted. So, and she's one of them. Her lifestyle is being impacted from that one, like you were saying, from that one opportunity to do the New Year's show. How many other shows is she able to line up from that one show?
Absolutely.
That she's going to lose. That probably set her whole year off in terms of, I do the New Year's show. A lot of people get exposed to me. A lot of venues that didn't hear about me get exposed to me. Now they want to book me. And That was probably a part of her lead. If we're talking business terms, that was probably one of her lead generation strategies that she just lost.
Wow. Thank you for joining us on the Extraordinary Life podcast. We hope that you've been empowered, enlightened, entertained, and blessed by the broadcast. For more information or to subscribe, visit www.SadeDennis.com.